Did y'all know that Kendrick Lamar, who some often refer to as the GOAT, just mentioned two of the biggest rappers within Christian hip hop?
Sometimes I wonder.
Back. Obviously, we all know that Kendrick Lamar right now is probably the hottest rapper out. After his dismantling of Drake, he seemed to kind of float onto this path. A lot of people are saying that rap has been ruined. Why? Because unless they're making a diss record against somebody, nobody's really wanting to buy records. The only people, according to Hitmaker, that's actually at the top is the women. And I had to think about that for a bit. But honestly, it is kind of crazy that some of they may not be doing the shows or doing the numbers that a lot of these male artists are doing. But when we're talking about running the radio space, it's definitely the female rappers. And Christian hip hop really isn't no different. But back to what I was talking about. Kendrick Lamar, a little bit after dissing Drake or dismantling Drake, however you want to call it, decided to have a record where he mentioned both Lrae and D1. He more wanted to know what Lrae would do in certain situations, and then he wanted to have a heart like D1. First and foremost, to speak about D1, I think D1 is more in like his villain era. I know, how can you be a villain and you're just trying to see peace, or you're just trying to see the culture stop being so toxic? Not talking about that. What I'm talking about is he's hit his villain arc in the sense of he really don't care. Now, D1 has never really cared. He's always had records where he's called out the industry, but I'm going to tell you where it started at. When he started to go at Lrae for some of the things that he was pushing to his audience, that's when I knew that D1 had entered that villain arc, right? It's one thing, look, a lot of these niggas do that, especially within the Christian hip hop space. They'll call out what mainstream artists are doing. Why? Because that's a little bit cliche. That's what you're supposed to do. I'm different. I'm different, right? That's what you're supposed to do. I know. Hey, leave that alone. But that's what you're supposed to do. Prove to the fact that you don't have to do everything that they're doing in order to achieve or be respected or whatever the case is, right? So when it comes to the Christian hip hop space, that's not really a big deal that someone like a D1 would do that, or that someone, a rapper, would do that. Yet it seemed to be a little bit different this time. D1 had started getting attention from Joe Buttons and Meek Mills and Rick Ross, and they started to clown him, while other artists within that same space started to commend him. And Kendrick Lamar is one of those artists. And at this point, a lot of the other people that are kind of calling D1 out probably should sit this one out. Because when you have somebody that's respected as Kendrick Lamar saying, I wish I had a heart like that of D1, basically saying, yeah. Hey, I mean, what he's doing, you're mad that he's saying we need to stop killing each other? You're mad that he's saying we need to stop preaching on that in our music because it has a way of manifesting itself? Like, you really upset? No. Y'all can sit this one out because his heart behind it. He just want to see change. Him being from New Orleans, him growing up around the things that he grew up around. But see, the thing is about D1, he's always giving a middle finger to disrupt the system. When we talk about J50 and Wayne, when we talk about I paid Sally Mae back, that was his way of saying, while a lot of people may think that this is not possible, I'm proving to you that this is possible. While with my dreads, with my vernacular, I may not seem to be that qualified to be in a position where I am teaching others, I will decide to become a professor. Like, I will go back to school. So when we talk about D1, he's always giving the middle finger to disrupt the system, and this is no different. I did think that he would kind of chill out like afterward, but he didn't care, man. I think he wound up dropping a record where he talked back to Joe Budden, and I could have sworn that the whole situation was kind of solved. I could have sworn that Joe Budden kind of saw his side of it, but maybe I'm wrong about that. But then he also goes to mention GOAT Lrae, the one that is the GOAT of Christian hip hop, the biggest artist to ever lace up those Christian hip hop shoes. Mr. Moore got mentioned. Now, 12-year-old me is losing it when I heard this. Why? Because it's always been a rumor that Lrae and Kendrick knew each other. We saw the picture. For years, we thought of a record coming out, and we finally got that record. Not in the way that y'all thought we were going to get the record, but we did get the record. Kendrick Lamar, knowing who he is and knowing who Lrae represents, or knowing what Lrae represents, simply said, I wonder what Lrae would do. And 12-year-old me is screaming, right? Because this was the I told you so moment, right? This was no Photoshop. This was out of Kendrick's mouth. Like, niggas say they know people all the time, or niggas say they do things all the time, and it ain't even close to being true. But within this situation, it finally gave validation to all those arguments that we had in regards to Lrae and Kendrick Lamar. And then Lrae got jumped on for responding. Look, I don't know this to be 100% true, but it definitely seems that way. The nigga that came up with the term clout chasing was just a hater. If you've learned anything in the age of social media, if you've learned anything within the past 10 years, you take that moment, whether good, bad, or indifferent, and you capitalize on it. The damn Hawktua girl got a podcast from just answering a question on a podcast. You can't make these things up. So when you have those moments, you are supposed to capitalize. I believe there's an age-old saying that says, there's no such thing as bad press. Like, all press is good press. As long as my name is in your mouth, we good. That's why somebody like Rashawn and Blueface can constantly be as toxic as they are and still have a following, because it doesn't matter what y'all talking about. Just matters that y'all talking. So in this moment, Lrae and D1 decided to use the most popular rapper in hip-hop, right now, mentioning them specifically, not riding on somebody's coattails, not, kind of inferring, not, oh, this is my, no. By name, they were mentioned, they made records responding to that, and some people seem to be upset and stating that they're clout chasing. I just like to say that they did what they were supposed to do. When I heard these things happening, it didn't get real for me until I saw the responses. When Kendrick actually did it, I text my brother. I shot him a text message, and I was like, yo, you see this? He was like, yeah, I saw it. He said, but you see, I didn't text you or anything about it. I said, yeah, it was kind of one of those things that too little, too late. I don't know. I mean, I'm happy. Like, as the time rolled on, I got more and more excited that this actually happened as I accepted the reality that it had actually happened. But we're talking 15 years too late. So I wasn't jumping out the roof immediately, but it got there. And then when I heard the responses, and then when I saw the way that y'all was talking, I was like, okay, nah, go ahead and do you, Lrae. Because this is what you're supposed to do. D1, go ahead and do you. The difference is D spoke, like, took it and was like, yeah, I was mentioned, and ran off with the record. I believe Lrae, when he did his was more of a response. Like, you want to know what I would do? Well, this is what I would do, or what I would hope to do, right? He more gave a continuation of that record, almost like you could fuse those together and it wound up being a feature. Who knows? Maybe that thing is coming.